Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the introduction. And thanks, Ritu, for organizing the wonderful event, and Sachin, if you're there in the audience. So we have about buying, digital selling, local loyalty, analytics to the store and to the customer, hyper-local delivery, and we arrive at this idea of building, thinking of the mobile phone and the smartphone as a platform for modernization of retail, and the notion of super apps, which will perform these functions and more. We used to have taxi stands, right? Back in the day, when you used to go to the airport or the railway station, you go to the taxi stand, you call a taxi. That's changed, right? And similar transformation is going to happen to traditional value chains in retail. This is a data center, right? And one of the phenomenon that we believe in is this notion of cloud distribution. That 15 years ago, and many of you I see in the audience are old enough to remember this, every organization used to have a big, expensive data center. Right? It was expensive, it was extremely risky, it was hard to scale up and scale down, and difficult to manage. You had to take your shoes off to enter a data center room. It was extremely complicated space as well. So this is not unique to ShopX, but 100% I would urge you to consider leveraging and using a shared services distribution platform. And we work with, it's possible for a variety of categories. We work with brands which are extremely new to extremely mature, the largest brands in the country. So 100%, I would definitely encourage you to think about it.
Role in boosting the sales as well? I mean, is it just the supply chain, or is it more?
No, we know sales matters ultimately. That's the bottom line and the top line. So, sure, absolutely. Yeah. And again, you're happy to talk to you offline about this. Maybe.
Hello. Hello.
Are there any more questions?
Yeah, that's one more question.
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
I can't see you. Sorry. Can you stand up, please? Yes. Hi.
Good morning, sir. Lovely
Good morning.
hearing yours. Just wanted to understand the format that you were saying about small format modern trade. Is this something that you are pitching on in the next 20 years? That's because the retail space is being crowded, or probably rentals are going high, or the overhead costs are increasing. That's why probably this format is something that would be good for the next 20 years. Or is it to do with convenience that the customer should find maximum touch points of your brand in the country, probably?
Yeah. So we have some stalwarts from organized retail, and I would defer to them, but I make a couple of quick observations that the difficulty of large format retail is typically location. If your store depends on 50,000 square feet or 1 lakh square feet, or even anything north of 5,000 square feet, the number of locations that are actually profitable and generate enough footfalls, the right quality of footfalls with the right competitive dynamics, the right consumption density is actually really small. That combined with the fact that, India has an interesting dichotomy. Some things are moving ahead at the speed of light, like digital payments, right? We are ahead of most countries in the world. And data, for example, data rates are amongst the lowest in the world. Smartphone rates are amongst the lowest. But in other places, we are actually way behind, like our road infrastructure, logistics. And large format retail typically requires and necessitates that infra to be in place. Okay, so the small format actually works really well when the underlying infrastructure is imperfect. Okay, the physical infra, and once you sort of do the maths, it's very hard to. I see like a small town. I gave examples of Manesar and Panipat, and many of you would come from small towns. Like how many malls have actually taken off in tier 2, tier 3 towns in India? I mean, it's not a lot. You know, I remember going to Bhopal a few years ago and there was one mall and now that's struggling. And there's few, but, and Bhopal is like a big city. And once you go below that, we have 6,000, about 110 tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities and metros, and about 6,000 tier 4 and below cities. And that's where the mass market lies. It's extremely hard to economically justify large format retail because of the factors I mentioned.